Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in here, Publicly Buzzed live on a Tuesday night, getting ready to come through with some more Karen Reed trial coverage. Today we're going to be looking at a little bit of the testimony, at least the cross, with Sgt Lank here and Alan Jackson. Hanging out a little bit before Jay and Bob from Defense Diaries go live tonight at 9 p.m. right after the show. Coming at you.
Let's rock.
Ladies and gentlemen, Publicly Buzzed live happening right now on X and YouTube Live. Welcome in here. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it on a Tuesday night. What we are doing tonight, or we're going to be looking at a little bit of the testimony today from the Karen Reed trial that happened today, day 6. Bob and Jay did not get to do that live. They're going to be doing a recap in about 55 minutes or so. I will spill everybody directly over into that live. And I believe it's on Bob's, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, you will get there. Thanks for hanging out. And we're going to jump right into this because there's a lot to get through. And I may even try to bump up the speed a little bit. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if I'll get completely through all of this. But this was really interesting today with Alan Jackson doing the cross on Sgt Lank here. So we're going to jump straight in. Thanks, everyone, for hanging. Appreciate the shit of it. I know Lakota came through right out the gate and throwing some love. She gave a membership out. Thank you so much. What are we doing out here today? Huh?
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Lakota's absolutely amazing coming through. And then, let me see, I think, hold on, I'll give you a little bit.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to the party, pal, as well. Let's get in here, guys. We're going to be moving tonight. Make sure the old sound is coming through properly. Boom, boom.
Lieutenant Lank, I want to start by asking you about your relationship with certain members of the Albert family. Do you know any other members of the Albert family other than Brian Albert?
Yes.
Can you describe who those are?
Kevin Albert, who is a detective on our department, Chris Albert, and I know Tim Albert.
Are those three individuals brothers?
Yes.
Who is the eldest brother?
Brian.
How long have you known, I want to start first with Tim Albert. How long have you known Tim Albert?
I knew Tim Albert when he was a kid because he was friends with a younger brother of a friend of mine.
Starting at what age?
12.
So
He was 12. I was probably 16 or so.
Okay, so the better part of your life, you've known Tim Albert.
Since about 16, I would say.
And what about Chris Albert?
Chris Albert I've known since junior high.
Which would be about what age?
Obey fear.
13, 14.
You grew up with
12,
Chris?
12, 13. I was friendly with Chris from junior high through high school and into our 20s.
And friendly with Tim?
I wouldn't say I was friendly to say hello to Tim. I didn't associate with him. He was younger. He was Chris's younger brother.
But you also knew Chris's older brother, Brian?
Yes.
Back in those days.
I knew who he was.
So you've known the three of them for basically your entire life?
No, I had met them. I had met Brian. I didn't know him other than just being Chris's older brother when we were younger kids.
Certainly with regard to Chris, you would consider him a close friend.
Consider who a close friend?
Chris.
Yes.
First names only
I'm
because
so afraid to say that.
Chris and I were pretty good friends when we were younger, yes.
I want to draw your attention to an incident in August of 2002. Do you remember an incident in 2002 occurring with that involved Chris Albert?
Yes.
In 2002, in August of 2002 specifically, you were off duty, correct?
Yes.
You had been drinking alcohol, correct?
Yes.
you were approached by Chris Albert out in the parking lot. Is that right?
That's correct.
And Chris Albert told you some information about being in a fight. That he had been in a fight or an altercation of some sort, correct?
He told me he had been in an altercation earlier in the night and some threats had been made to him and his family.
And you got out of your car and discussed this with Mr. Albert, correct?
No.
You just talked to him while you were seated in your car?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, did some other individuals approach that same area?
Yes.
Was there a fight that you believe was about to ensue?
Yes.
Did you get out of your car at that point?
I did.
Did you come to Chris's aid by, quote unquote, activating yourself as an officer?
I got out of my car and I approached the group and I pleaded with them to not fight tonight. I said, there's not going to be a fight tonight. There's 6 of you guys. He's here with his girlfriend. There's not going to be a fight tonight.
Did you come to Chris Albert's aid as best you could as a longtime friend of his?
I came to the aid of a citizen who was in fear and of need.
That citizen happened to be Chris Albert, whom you had known since you were 12 years old.
Correct.
Ultimately, a fight did break out, did it not?
Yes.
And you engaged in that fight.
Yes.
And again, you had been drinking alcohol at that point, correct?
Correct.
And you were off duty in August of 2002 during this fight.
Yes.
Just like you were off duty in 2022 when you were called by Sergeant Good to activate and come to the crime scene at 34 Fairview.
When Sergeant Good contacted me, I was not working. I was due to work at 7:45 that morning. When Sergeant Good contacted me and told me what was going on, then I activated myself and came to work because I was the detective sergeant.
And that's similar sort of activation, using that word in air quotes, it's similar sort of activation that you employed back in 2002 to assist Chris Albert.
No.
You did, in fact, call for someone to call the police and get some Canton officers over there, correct?
Excuse me, so in 2002?
In 2002.
Yes.
Okay. And I failed to ask you this, but in 2002, you were, in fact, a Canton
No,
police
I
officer.
Yes. Get that fancy, Drew. Oh, God.
After the other officers arrived, did you order the other officers to handcuff or somehow restrain one of the 2 brothers that were involved in this fight, Chris?
No.
Ultimately, did you see whether or not those officers handcuffed or otherwise restrained one of the brothers that was involved in this fight?
Yes.
And did you then engage physically in a fight with the other brother who was not restrained?
No. The struggle had already occurred.
All right. So let me make sure I get the timing right. You did, in fact, engage in a physical fight with one of the brothers, correct?
Upon being struck, yes.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Upon being struck, yes.
And then you struck him back.
Yes.
You ended up on the ground.
Yes, we were wrestling, yes.
And ultimately, the other officers had to pull you off that man, correct?
No.
You ultimately, the fight was broken up between you and the other brother. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. And that fight was broken up by the officers who were on scene.
Yes.
After this physical altercation with the brother who was not ultimately restrained, both of the brothers and everybody else was just told by the officers, just go away. Get out of here, go home, correct?
No, I believe one of the brothers left the scene, fled the scene, and the brother that was restrained was ultimately uncuffed.
Let's get one of these brothers in here.
And nobody was arrested that night.
Correct.
Nobody chased down the brother that left the scene, correct?
That's
The interesting part about this, I'm sure everybody already knows this, is the retaliation that you can see from this police department, in specific Lank and Albert, right? Yeah, dude, like, because these brothers came to the police station, I guess, the next day, I'm sure we'll get there, but saying essentially that they wanted to file a complaint about the situation. They sent them away, and then 3 days later, they filed charges against these 2 brothers. So then if the brothers come back around and say, hey, we want to file a complaint, then it's going to look like they're retaliating against the police, when it's really the other way around here, is what it seems like.
The brother
Or is like.
Correct.
And no police reports were written by you or any of the other officers about this incident on that night.
I don't recall when the other officers wrote theirs. I did not write mine on that night.
The next day, you became aware that one or both of the brothers had arrived at Canton Police Department to file a formal complaint for having been physically attacked by you and some of the other officers involved, correct?
I don't recall when I was made aware that they had come down to the police station.
You are aware that there was a complaint sought against you for the physical attack that was alleged to have occurred,
Thanks,
correct?
Dizzy, for that.
It was brought to my attention that they had come down to the police station.
And you also are aware that only after that complaint had been sought, the police reports were then dated and filed against the 2 brothers, correct?
So I had spoken to the sergeant on duty the night of the
Yes or no
incident.
question. I'm just looking at the time.
It's not a yes or no question.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he was just asking you about dates. So can you answer the question? Ask the question.
Could you repeat?
You know, just spitball here just a little bit. Say he was hit by a car in reverse. Like, it still doesn't make sense with the wounds that he had, quite frankly. Like, there's so much of this that still has been put into place. And I have this up over here just because anybody that's, you know, you guys could be on teams. I don't know. I mean, I still am undecided here. This is what I posted. Folks for Karen Reed. It's all over now. Folks against Karen Reed. It's all over now, right? I mean, I can see that people explain it on either side and make it work for their narrative. So I don't know, folks. I'm still unsure, but I will say this, Viv. I mean, she would have had to like ran over him, and I mean, those none of that makes any sense. And then the cocktail glass that was found in the snow next to him, the theory of that would have been dropped in the snow and he was bending over, and then whoever came up with that, one of these YouTube channels, and then just he backed in and hit him in the head, and then that doesn't make sense because the cocktail glass isn't in the street; it's in the snow next to his body. So that theory is weird. Backed into him, and then he, you know, again, he died from hypothermia, wasn't actually dead, had a head injury, falls backwards into the snow. I don't know. Still, where would all these marks come from? And any person I've talked to, I know it can be debated all day long. I think the FBI expert said that it was a dog, the marks that were on the arm. And I haven't shown one person. Dan and me had the debate when this originally came up about it, and he was against it, right? But then after some experts come out, he's kind of changed his tune on that as well. Anybody I show that to is like, I know someone with a German Shepherd, right? Like, that's what they say. I don't know, man. I'm just here watching and talking some shit.
I'm seeking the chronology of events.
Thanks for hanging, guys.
A fight
Seriously.
occurs. A complaint against you occurs.
That's true. That's 100% true. Yeah, if we like, I think it's over because of that, Criminal Med. Like, you know,
against the two people that are complaining.
The way this has been handled, fucking gross and weird. And anybody that says otherwise is again playing their fucking side, their cards.
Although he had been in a physical fight,
that cannot say that.
No charges were ever brought against Chris Albert. Correct.
The narrative of "I hit him" being said basically has been debunked over and over, with these police officers being called lies and EMTs. So I'm not on board with that theory at all. That she intentionally hit him, that they want to ride with, they were having these problems, yada yada. That's complete bullshit.
Objection, Your Honor.
Do you know that?
I don't know. I don't even know where the fight.
The incompetence is insane, though. People that are watching this trial, and again, they're the sides people, bro. Like anybody that, I mean, again, I know you everybody. And to me, I'm on a side to a degree here. The more I watch of this, but still, holy shit! Like the people that can see any of this police work, like the fucking snow being put into solo cups, and then they get on Twitter and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is just how you're just seeing what you want." What? That is not okay in any department in this fucking country. And if you are okay with that, then I would never want you to ever be a juror on my fucking trial with that attitude. That's an insane way to look at anything. Like the incompetence level is through the fucking roof, and is why ultimately, even if this was a manslaughter charge, she's going to not be convicted of second-degree murder. How fucking crazy of them to go that far with it.
What we just talked about.
Stupid.
Is that an example of you using your position as a police officer to come to the aid of one of the members of the Albert family?
It was me,
like the incompetence
coming to the
fucking
aid of a
gross,
citizen who
bro.
was terrified and scared for him and his family on that night.
Who happened to be named what?
Excuse me. Who happened to be Chris Albert.
You mentioned Kevin Albert. Who's he?
Oh shit, Johnny,
Kevin
thanks for
Albert
coming through,
is a
bro.
detective with the
What's
Canton
up,
Police.
man?
Is he a co-worker?
Where's
Yes.
the pickles?
How long
Get
have
the
you
hell in here.
Um,
That's what I'm talking
Probably
about.
since 14, 15 years old.
And you also consider him to be a friend as well as a co-worker
I do.
and a colleague.
Yes.
And you're also well aware. I mean, you've said it already. He's little brother of Brian Albert.
Correct.
And you're also aware that the reason that your department was ultimately recused from this investigation, Lieutenant Lank, is because of a perceived bias or conflict of interest between the Albert family and the Canton Police Department. Correct?
Dude,
Yes, there was.
I gotta talk about that
bias.
stuff for a minute. Like,
Can you tell me one more time, and now I want to fast forward to the incident in question. What was the exact time that you arrived at the location, if you know?
I believe it was around 6:24, 6:25.
Okay. And you indicated that that was in response to a call that you got from Sergeant Good.
Yes, that's correct.
What made you decide, or could you have decided, to take this particular call?
welcome in here, GM.
Was it up to you, in other words?
I would never not take that call.
Okay, fair enough. So once you got the call, you knew that you were going to respond because there was something very serious afoot.
Correct.
Did you know at the time you got the call that that very serious incident was occurring at 34 Fairview?
No.
When did you realize that?
Upon speaking with Sergeant Good.
Okay, so Sergeant Good didn't, I guess that's what maybe I asked an inartful question. I was asking whether or not Sergeant Good told you before you actually arrived, he sort of had to have, that it's at 34 Fairview.
He did.
Okay. At that point, did a light bulb go off and you think to yourself, ding, that's the Albert House?
I don't recall if I realized it then or once I turned onto the street. I don't recall.
I mean, they were sterile. I took them right out of a new sleeve, dude. Some of the things that I've heard in this is truly absolutely bonkers. Like,
At some point before your car came to a stop,
I'm gonna
you
keep
knew
stopping it and just ranting here. Yo,
this is
Tiff.
34 Fairview, this is the Albert household.
I knew that was Brian Albert's house,
Set
yes.
the stream after this.
When you arrived, who was the ranking officer at the scene? You mentioned, obviously we've heard these names, Sergeant Good, Officer Mulaney, Officer Seraph, you. Who was the ranking officer?
When I arrived, Sergeant Good was the ranking officer.
Have you reviewed either, well, let me ask you a different question. Did you have a dash cam in the vehicle that you arrived in?
I did not.
And that's because was that a detective vehicle?
Yes.
Sometimes used undercover, et cetera?
Yes.
It's not a fully marked cruiser.
No, not at all.
The other cruisers you're aware did have dash cams, correct?
Yes.
Have you reviewed any or all of those dash cams from Officer Mulaney, Officer Seraph, Sergeant Good?
Yes.
And you reviewed those in preparation for your testimony?
Yes.
I'd like to show you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 16. And I'm going to ask Mr. Bates if you could fast forward that to about the runtime of about 28:35 or so, with the court's permission.
Yes.
Before we play this, it appears to be a still image of,
So let's not describe that.
sure. What do you see on the screen?
I see two still images.
Okay. Do you recognize either or both of those images?
Yes.
How do you recognize them?
It looks like the scene from that morning. From I believe it's going to be the top one, anyways. That 683 Officer Seraph's cruiser.
And the bottom one?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It looks like possibly Sergeant Good's based on where it's placed.
Okay. If we could fast forward to the 28th.
That's the norm around here, folks, that are popping in. I do have a lot of tech issues on here.
Play that.
Not tonight, Shiraz.
Let's pause it for a second. Your Honor, may we approach briefly?
Okay.
About to fast forward. Yeah, small towns can get real bad for stuff like that.
You indicated that you have reviewed these videos in anticipation of your testimony today, correct?
Yes.
I'm asked you to direct your attention to the top video, and specifically to an area right around this area in the video, which is highlighted. Before we play, a couple of foundational questions. Did you meet with Jennifer McCabe out behind the vehicle that's depicted in the Officer Seraph dash cam?
Yes.
Did you have some sort of a conversation with her?
I did.
At some point, did you see Ms. McCabe leave your presence and walk toward the driveway?
Once the conversation had terminated, I honestly don't recall where she went.
Did she tell you that she intended to go inside the house?
I had said to her that at some point we're going to need to speak to Brian and Nicole
Why did you think it was important to speak to Brian and Nicole?
because it's their property.
And somebody was laying in the snow, unconscious and unresponsive, correct?
Correct.
And obviously that could potentially, at least, implicate people inside the house.
Based on my conversation with Ms. McCabe, she had stated that the intention was for Mr. McCabe,
I love this
for
part.
Mr. O'Keefe
Actually. Dude,
to join
Jackson
them at that house.
doesn't
So
quit.
I
This
wanted to
dude's a
get
fucking
statements from
defense
everybody who was there.
genius.
Find out what happened, correct?
Correct.
I mean, that's sort of the obvious initial point of an investigation. Find out who the witnesses are and interview all of them, correct?
Correct.
And you began by talking to Ms. McCabe,
Yes.
knowing that she was a potential witness at least, correct?
She identified herself as a friend of Mr. O'Keefe.
Who had been with Mr. O'Keefe just hours before.
Yes.
He ended up laying in the snow fighting for his life, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you also knew that there were other witnesses potentially inside the house because she just told you that, right?
That's right.
That was ultimately where he was supposed to end up.
So if there were other witnesses in the house, sorry, if there were other individuals in the house, they also
I get
were
it,
potential
Carrie.
witnesses.
It's a lot.
Potentially.
And Ms. McCabe.
I'm having to pull back on the old X machine. I've been going a little crazy with some of these trolls. They're absolutely trolls. They have fake accounts. They create fake accounts, and they, I don't know. It's craziness, dude. And I get into it. I get wild on there.
I had told her that she's going to have to wake her sister up because we're going to need to speak with them.
You didn't think that it was more important to separate the witnesses and not let her talk to other witnesses?
No.
You thought that it was appropriate to let all the witnesses get together and just discuss the facts before you had an opportunity to interview them separately?
Objection.
It is to the phone.
Just like Lieutenant Lank, if you could direct your attention to the area that I highlighted earlier. Let's go ahead and play the video. Stop. Did you see anything occur at or around the car in the distance?
It appears to be somebody walking towards the house.
Was that Jim McCabe?
I can't say for sure.
Do you see yourself, by the way, in this video?
Yes.
Where are you?
Right here.
Okay. You described with a, I don't know if it's tan or gray.
It's a gray North Face jacket with black on the top.
Okay. Toward the shoulders?
Yes.
All right. Let's go ahead and play the video, and I'll indicate another stopping place that I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about.
Me too. Love it. You guys make this shit worth it for sure.
Apologies. Oh, go. No, sorry. Standing in front of me. Did you see another person shorter in stature approach you?
I believe right there. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Who is that?
I believe it's Kerry Roberts.
Okay. Okay. Pause it. Did you see yourself just exit screen right?
Yes.
It appeared that you had something in your hand.
Yes.
You're taking a call
Yes.
on your cell phone.
Yes.
What was that call?
I don't recall. It could have. I can't see what time that is. I don't believe that I made the call to the CPAC unit until around 6:38, so I'm not sure who that call was from.
If you'll direct your attention, I think now down toward the camera below,
Yes.
you may see yourself enter the frame. Can we go ahead and play it? Go ahead and pause it. Does it appear you're on the phone?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Pause it. Did it appear that you walked off screen left?
Yes.
Still on the phone?
Yes.
Go ahead. And pause it. Did you see somebody following that same direction?
It looked like Officer Seraph.
Go ahead and play it.
Actually, I'm wrong because that's Officer Seraph right there, so I'm incorrect.
You think it might have been Sergeant Good?
Could we play it back?
With the court's permission.
Sure, go ahead.
Pause. Do you recognize that person?
Yes, I'm mistaken. That's Sergeant Good.
Okay, go ahead. Does it? Does it appear that you've walked back into the frame?
Yes.
Are you followed by anybody?
I believe it's still Sergeant Good.
Are you speaking to Sergeant Good or are you walking away from him? Or can you tell?
In that frame, it appears I'm standing right next to him.
Okay, let's go ahead and play. How's it? Did it appear you were sort of walking away from Sergeant Good off frame again?
Yes, it appears that I'm pacing.
Were you still on the phone?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, Pam, what's up?
How's it? Directing your attention to the top video, do you see the SUV in the video?
Yes.
Does that SUV appear to be leaving the scene?
Yes.
Do you know who was in that video? In that SUV?
I believe it's going to be Kerry Roberts and Karen Reed.
Okay, go ahead and play. How's it? At that point, are you walking back into the frame on the lower video?
Yes.
At this point, Lieutenant, are the lights on at 34 Fairview on or off?
They still appear to be off.
And at some point while you were at the scene, did the lights come on? I think you testified to that earlier.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like you to pay special attention to that moment and maybe tell me to stop when you see those lights come on. It may be a minute or so.
Sure.
At this point, does it appear that you're still on the phone?
Yes.
How's it? At this point, is there anything that changed in the scene?
Yes.
What's that?
It appears that there's now a light on inside the home.
And at this point, Ms. McCabe has been inside the house for approximately how long, if you could estimate?
Maybe 3 minutes.
And are you still on the phone? Or have you ended that call?
I can't tell if I'm still on the phone at that point. I know that right around this time is when I end up speaking to the CPAC unit, because I believe I get into the vehicle.
Let's play it just a little bit further forward, maybe another 30 seconds or so. Stop it. Does it appear at this point, if you can see, does it appear that you've ended that call, or at least your hands are down by your side?
I can't tell.
Okay. You would agree with me that's all for that? Okay. You would agree with me that that was, without counting seconds, that was about...
Oh, I don't think I knew that, Debbie.
Maybe a little better than 5 minutes.
I wasn't watching, to be honest.
Do you have any idea who you were talking to now that you've seen that?
I could make an educated guess, but I don't know for sure.
You did notice that several minutes after Jim McCabe went in the house, and while you were on that phone call, the lights finally came on at 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
At the point the lights came on, the ladder truck had already gone, left from the scene, correct?
I
Fire
believe,
engine.
I believe so.
The firefighters are all gone.
Yes.
The ambulance has already left and transported Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
The paramedics are gone, the EMTs.
Yes.
Fire captain and his SUV, that's gone. Is that right?
I'm sorry, was there a question?
The fire captain and his SUV, that's gone.
I'm not sure.
In other words, all the fire and EMTs have...
I don't see them on camera.
Doesn't appear that any fire or EMTs are still on scene, correct?
Doesn't appear so.
Kerry Roberts is gone.
Yes.
Karen Reed is gone.
Yes.
So when the only parties left at the scene are members of the Albert family, Jen McCabe, and the Canton Police Department representatives, that's when the lights inside 34 Fairview finally came on.
Okay.
Is that yes?
Yes.
And then minutes after that call, you did then speak to CPAC. I'm sorry, to dispatch, correct?
CPAC dispatch.
Right, I was getting to that. It was a dispatch, and the dispatch was to CPAC, not to Canton PD.
Correct.
And at some point, did CPAC dispatch indicate that they were on their way, they had declined the call? What was that call all about?
So there are two separate calls.
Your Honor.
Sustained.
Who did you talk to at CPAC?
Oh, Shelley, welcome in here.
I don't recall who handled the first call at dispatch.
Okay, do you remember having a conversation
Got about
with Kelly
30
Beck?
minutes, ladies and gentlemen, to the full recap. I guess they're doing a full recap. I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they're doing some sort of a review or recap tonight. Bob and Jay over what happened today. So you'll be portaled straight into that show after this one, guys. So stick around. You don't have to do anything.
Okay.
Yo, Life Love, what's up?
I think we're talking about two different things. I'm talking about CPAC dispatch, not Canton Police dispatch.
Dude, this was me on Twitter today,
At
actually.
some
I think we're talking about two different things. I don't know.
Did
I
you
feel like
have
I'm in a
conversation
different
with-
world sometimes. And I'm like, are we even having the same conversation?
Well, let me ask it this way. I just don't know. Did you talk to both Canton Dispatch and CPAC Dispatch?
I definitely spoke to CPAC dispatch.
And okay.
I'm not sure if I spoke to Canton dispatch or not.
All right. At some point, did you say, did you indicate to one or the other, I'm responding to 34 Fairview, we have a Boston police officer who was just found?
I stated that I was already at 34 Fairview.
You indicated that he
believe.
does have some trauma to his head area, correct?
That's correct.
And you said, quote, I'm not sure if he's been in a fight or whatever. Our medics don't believe he's going to make it,
Correct.
end quote. Sergeant Lank, you never saw John O'Keefe's body, correct?
Correct.
So somebody disclosed to you that it appeared that he had been in a, quote, fight or whatever, at least at that point. That was your thought.
No.
And what made you say, well, you didn't say to dispatch, the victim appears to have been shot.
Missing a light.
Correct.
Let's see if this helps.
Correct.
You didn't say it appeared he'd been stabbed.
No.
He had been strangled.
No.
You didn't say it appeared he'd been hit by a car.
Correct.
You said it appeared that he'd been in a fight or whatever. Correct?
I stated that he had some trauma to his head, and I said, I don't know if he has been in a fight, and then I believe I described it as I don't remember my exact terminology, but it was a crazy scene.
Chaotic scene?
Possibly. I don't recall my exact words, something to that effect.
But you do recall your exact words to dispatch being, I don't know if he's been in a fight or whatever.
Correct.
Okay. I want to talk about inside the house for just a few minutes, if I could. You've talked extensively about the crime scene outside, and we'll get to that in a second, but I want to talk about what did or did not happen inside the house. Did you actually make it inside the house at some point?
Yes.
Okay. When was that? How long? Let's use Jennifer McCabe as the time frame. How long after that did you finally go inside the house, after she'd been in the house?
So it was specifically just after I got off the phone with CPAC.
So just a few minutes after we ended that video?
Yes.
And you walked you said either along the driveway or through the yard?
I believe it was up the driveway.
Okay. Once you went in the house, you made contact with the individuals in the house, correct?
Yes.
And you believed, at least at that point, that there was a potential, that there was a, let me rephrase that. You knew that you were dealing with a violent incident, correct?
No.
You thought maybe it was just a heart attack?
I didn't know what it was. At that point in time, I didn't know what it was. Could have been a multitude of things.
But what was going through your mind at that point was it could have been a fight or whatever, because he had trauma to his head. Those were your words.
Those were my words, yes.
Okay. So you didn't think it was like some old man who died of old age, right?
Based on his age, no, I wouldn't have suspected that.
You didn't think it was an accidental drowning or something?
Again, it could have been a multitude of things to cause those injuries. So at that point in time, we had no idea what we were looking at.
But you were aware that it had something to do with a
Yeah,
violent
Mia
incident.
Beto, we have so much more to go. Like, we're still so early into this. That's going to be, I'm intrigued about a lot of that as well. I want to see some medical examiner testimony. Yeah, dude, like, we're so early on is what's crazy.
He had trauma
Like,
to
they're
his face. He was
predicting, I guess
unconscious,
we're
correct?
6 more weeks, 4 to 6 more weeks, where they were 6 to 8 out the gate.
Did you believe that there were any indicators
day
that
6, we're still
Mr.
technically
O'Keefe had
week
been involved
1,
in
so
some sort of
yeah.
physical altercation?
Jesus.
Possibly.
Okay, and that's because you
This
used the
one's
phrase,
so
"Get
interesting,
traumatized
though. Like, it
face
goes
and
by
head,"
so
right?
fast.
That's what I had been told, yes.
So, based on what you had been told, you knew that there was a person laying out.
Yeah, like, it's hard to
just
really...
outside the residence that
But everybody knows exactly
belonged.
what happened, Viv.
That's fair.
It's a possibility, yes. But again, there were a multitude of things that were going through my head as possibilities.
Yo,
That's
Sarah,
one of
what's up?
The premier possibilities, right?
What's up?
I wouldn't say it's premier. It was one of the possibilities.
And it's logical to believe that if a fight had occurred, very well may have started inside the residence 30 feet away.
Objection, Your Honor.
There are a lot of half days happening.
Did you believe, in your mind, that it was possible, given the fact that a violent confrontation was possible in your mind, that it could have started inside the house?
Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach?
Yes.
We got a sidebar here, and that was perfect timing because Shelly Tarbert just came through and gifted out 5 memberships. Oh, shit. Sarah came in the perfect time. As soon as she popped through the door, she grabbed one of them sons of bitches. Criminal Med grabbed one. Get in here. Welcome, friend. Scott McGinnis got one. Jade Roscoe, Megan Easton, and Mia... Oh, no. Mia Beto. I was just kept reading there. Thank you all so much. Get in here.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Perfect timing.
Lieutenant Lank, given what you believed at the time and the possibility that there was a fight or whatever, did you logically think, in your mind, your state of mind was, it possibly could have started in the house?
If it had been a confrontation, it could
That
have
was
started
crazy
anywhere.
timing.
Right? A house is part of anywhere, right?
Correct.
So, in other words, the house is not excluded in your mind at that point as a starting point for the investigation. Is that right?
Well, the starting point would have been where Mr. O'Keefe had been discovered, and then based on speaking with the witnesses, there was no indication that he had ever made it into the house.
Well, you didn't know that until you followed up on your investigation, correct?
I learned that by speaking to Ms. McCabe.
So you just took Ms. McCabe's word for it.
At that point in time, that was the only person I had spoken to, and she gave me a timeline of events from that night where Mr. O'Keefe was supposed to come back to the house, but never made it.
Have you ever been, in your course of investigating cases, have you ever been lied to by a witness?
Objection, Your Honor.
Can you answer that? Have you ever been lied to by a witness?
Yes.
So
yeah,
it's
this
not
is what I thought was
necessarily
happening
the
earlier.
best investigative technique. To
You just took her
change
word
this
for it?
something, correct?
Objection.
That's sustained.
You need to actually investigate the circumstances for yourself and to your own satisfaction. Is that a fair statement?
Sure.
One of those investigative techniques would be to walk into the house and figure out who's who there, correct?
Can you rephrase the question?
Sure. One of those investigative techniques to satisfy yourself that you're actually getting to the truth of the matter would be to walk into the house and figure out who's in the house first.
I will agree that I needed to speak to the people in the home. I can't just walk in their house. I have to announce myself, and they don't have to let me in.
I understand. I'm not trying to parse those words. I just mean entering the home and interviewing witnesses. That would be a normal part of your investigation initially, correct?
Yes.
And you also knew that the most obvious place to look for witnesses that may have information about a fallen man in the snow would be 30 feet away in the home, correct?
Correct.
So once you're inside the residence, you walked in the front door, correct?
Yes.
You indicated that there's a stair that serves as the second floor. Is that right?
Straight ahead, yes.
Right. Just before the staircase, there's a door to your left, right?
I don't recall.
You remember whether or not there's a door that when you open it, goes directly downstairs to the basement.
I don't recall.
You indicated on direct examination that you didn't notice anything. I'm paraphrasing.
That's the authority of
You didn't
Jen
notice anything
McCabe.
out of place in the home.
No.
But you didn't go downstairs to the basement and look, did you?
No.
Didn't look for broken furniture down there.
I didn't enter the basement at all.
You didn't look for torn clothing down there.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
And as we prepare to go in again to a Defense Diary stream with Jay, Bob has said it time and time again. If this happened on your lawn, on my lawn, on anyone else's lawn, your house is getting searched immediately. It's not going to be all this pussyfooting around. It's not going to be this like, why didn't you get a search warrant? We didn't feel like, Jim McCabe said, this lady has this. What is happening, dude? Like, this is what's fucking everybody up, is the inconsistencies with the police work, and then you have the overall picture that seems like it's just an absolute fucking fabrication and a lie of her being intentionally wanting to murder him. It's madness. Like, they're all over the place on something that's really is wild.
DNA evidence.
At that point in time, I
This
never
is
made it
fucking
past
nuts,
the front
dude.
foyer area.
So the answer to my question is no, you did not.
I never made it past the front foyer area.
So if I
Yeah,
were to ask you
Elizabeth.
one more time, I know you never made it past the foyer. Did you ever investigate the foyer area or any other part of the house for evidence of a fight?
The only area I was able to observe at that point, everything appeared to be in order.
But you didn't search the rest of the house for a fight, Lieutenant. That's all I'm asking.
No, I wouldn't have had probable cause to do so.
And did you seek guidance from a court as to whether or not you might have probable cause?
Do you mean a search warrant?
That's what I mean.
That's
I
what I
wouldn't fill
mean.
out an affidavit for a search warrant because it wouldn't have probable cause.
In your mind, there was no PC to search that house, right?
Objection.
Let's move on from this.
So, is that unusual when she tells them to move on? Like, that happens all the time. Like, I guess they have an outline of where she doesn't want them to go and they've already agreed upon it.
One of the
So many
ways
little things like
to
that
secure
that are
premises,
strange.
Any premises in a normal crime scene investigation would be to remove.
But I mean, I guess that's in
and
some way to
animals
protect the
from that
jury from
premises
stuff that
to sort of
she's
freeze
not
the
allowing
lockdown,
in
correct?
ultimately.
If there was a reason to do so, yes.
Okay. Were the witnesses in this case asked to come outside the house in order to freeze the house down as a potential crime scene?
No.
Were any animals removed?
That's literally
in order to
how it
freeze
feels
and
like.
Lock down the house as a potential crime scene.
I didn't observe any animals.
Did you, and this is the last question on this issue, did you do anything to lock down and secure that premises, the inside of the house, in any way, shape, form, or fashion?
Can you rephrase that, please?
Sure. Did you do anything to lock down and secure that premises in any way, shape, form, or fashion?
No.
Did you allow witnesses to go inside the house other than Jim McCabe?
Yes.
Who was that?
I believe Matt McCabe entered the house after I had come out.
And did you seek to separate any of the witnesses or admonish them that they are not to be in each other's presence and discuss the facts of the case before you had an opportunity to interview them?
No.
And as you sit here, you have no idea, when you were not in their presence, you have no idea what the occupants of that house were discussing
Correct.
or what they were doing.
I have no idea what they were doing.
Get my what? About a lot of stuff, don't you, sir?
Given the fact that you were the first law enforcement officer inside the house, did you seek to photograph anything inside the house?
When you say
Why
I was
the
first
hell
law
would I
enforcement
do
officer,
that?
I was with Sergeant Good. Both of us walked in at the same time.
That's fair. I don't mean to be vague, but you were sort of leading the discussion, correct, with the interviews?
Yes.
At least according to Sergeant Good, you were taking charge.
Sure.
As the first law enforcement officer to take charge inside the house, did you seek to photograph that?
No.
Of that location?
No, I did not.
Did you make any drawings or diagrams of the layout of the house?
No, I did not.
Did you note where the furniture was or was not?
I don't know what you mean.
Did you note in a diagram where furniture was? There's a dining room table here. It's got 6 chairs. There's a kitchen table over there.
No, I did not.
Did you note any document where the individuals were, the human beings were, in relation to each other when you walked in the house?
Are you asking me where I were, or did I make a
I'm asking you
diagram?
whether or not you documented that.
No.
Had you been told at the time that you went in the house that John O'Keefe was found out in the yard, that there was a shoe missing? The right shoe was missing.
No,
You didn't have that information yet?
I did not.
Did you subsequently learn that?
I learned that much later after we had already cleared the area.
Tell me what much later means. Days, hours, weeks?
I honestly
Gabby.
couldn't
Appreciate
give
it.
an exact answer on that.
I think I know the answer to this, but you didn't do any search for any missing clothing from the victim inside the house.
I did not.
Last question on this, or last series of questions on this issue. You understand the importance of electronic devices in modern investigations, correct?
Yes.
iPads, cell phones, things of that nature.
Sure.
Because they can record things like photographs, videos, conversations, text messages, and emails.
Yes.
Would you consider electronic devices relatively vital in modern law enforcement investigations?
I'm sorry. Violent?
Vital.
Yes. Yes.
They're critical items of evidence, right? It's like walking around with your entire life in your palm of your hand, correct?
Correct.
Did you seek to secure any electronic devices from any of the occupants of that house that morning?
No.
Did you ask for consent to look through their electronic devices, for instance, their cell phones, for text messages, communications?
No.
Did you believe, turning back to a question that you were asked by Mr. Lally, you did, in fact, interview Brian Albert at the scene, correct?
Yes.
You also interviewed his wife.
Yes.
Did you believe at any point before you interviewed Mr. Albert that it was incumbent upon you to let your supervisors know that there may be a conflict of interest because of a personal relationship that you had with the family?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you ever, in fact, not whether you believed, it was important, but did you ever, in fact, notify any of your superiors at Canton PD or any other law enforcement agency that you had a personal relationship with the Albert family or members of the Albert family?
I did not.
You indicated that you believe you spoke to Mr. Albert and his wife, Nicole Albert, for maybe 15 to 20
all
minutes. Is that what you
seen
said?
it.
Roughly.
Did you record that conversation?
I did not.
You had your cell phone with you, correct?
Yes.
You know that has recording capability?
Yes.
Was anybody else with Nicole? When I say with, I mean in earshot of Nicole and Brian Albert when you interviewed either one of them or both of them?
Jennifer McCabe.
So you interviewed them together.
Yes.
Did you then interview Jennifer McCabe?
I had spoken to Jennifer McCabe outside. To the best of my memory, I believe once we were inside, I was able to get some more information from her based on the chronological order of events.
And when you were getting this information about the chronological order of events, that was within earshot of Brian Albert and Nicole Albert.
Yes.
So when you interviewed Brian Albert, Nicole and Jennifer McCabe were listening, correct?
Yes.
When you interviewed Nicole Albert, Brian Albert and Jennifer McCabe were listening.
Yes.
And when you got this chronological layout of the night before from Jennifer McCabe, Brian and Nicole were both listening.
Yes.
After you met with the three of them and interviewed them, you indicated that you came back. You'd already left, you came back. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit, so forgive me. When you came back, was it around 9 a.m.?
No. I came back just moments later.
Had you actually left? I may be a bit confused, so I apologize. Had you actually left and driven back to Canton PD?
No.
Okay, so you just came back in the house?
When Mr. McCabe entered the house?
No, I'm so sorry. I'm jumping ahead, so that's unfair. You left, now we're at the point where you've already cleared the crime scene.
Okay.
And then at some point you get called back
Yes.
because Ms. McCabe said she had additional information she wanted to impart.
Yes.
When you interviewed Ms. McCabe that second time, were Brian and Nicole Albert there?
Yes.
Were they within earshot?
Yes.
And they listened to that conversation as well.
Yes.
After that conversation, did you meet with any other witnesses between February 29th, later in the day, January 29th, any time until February 4th?
No.
None.
No.
I do want to talk for a second, just a brief second, about setting up a crime scene outdoors. You indicated that the crime scene was relatively secure, was your word. It was relatively secure because there were patrol cars or cruisers sort of around the perimeter
Yes.
of the yard. Is that right?
That's correct.
Crime scene tape wasn't working because it was windy.
Crime scene tape was up, but it was being blown all over the place.
Okay. And of course, Canton PD has the ability to go get stakes and just hammer some stakes into the dirt if you wish to.
No.
You don't have stakes at Canton PD?
No,
I
we-
mean stakes. E-S-T-A-K-E-S.
I know what a stake is. No, we don't have any.
Canton PD doesn't have those.
No.
So if crime scene tape was blown down, that was just sort of a let's give up on it. Wasn't doing any good.
No.
In your mind, it was futile.
The crime scene tape was futile, yes. It was left up until we made the determination to take it
Struck
down,
down.
but
What's up?
it wasn't really doing its job.
All right. And once the scene was cleared, all those cruisers that were protecting that crime scene were now gone, right?
Yes.
And all the cruisers were gone by about 7:50 in the morning, 7:50, 7:55.
Yes.
So before 8 a.m., that crime scene was completely
Thanks,
open.
Amber. Appreciate
After
that.
8 a.m., that crime scene was completely open,
Yes.
unsecured,
Yes.
and available to anybody who wanted access to it.
Correct.
One of the reasons to secure a crime scene is to minimize the possibility of evidence destruction on one hand, correct?
Yes.
And evidence tampering on the other hand, right?
Sure.
And examples of evidence tampering could be just moving a piece of evidence.
Objection, Your Honor.
That's overruled. Just not too much further with this, though.
I've just got a couple of quick questions about this.
Could you repeat that, please?
Sure. An example, or a couple of examples of evidence tampering could be something as simple as moving a piece of evidence, moving it from here to here, correct?
That would be tampering, yes.
Hiding evidence, getting rid of it, right?
Yes.
Taking evidence out of the scene or putting evidence back into the scene, correct?
Yes.
Or even planting evidence that didn't exist before. All of those would be examples of tampering with evidence.
Yes.
And setting up a proper crime scene minimizes or eliminates the possibility for that.
Setting up a crime scene would, could you say that again, please?
Sure. Setting up a proper crime scene, securing a proper crime scene minimizes or tries to eliminate the possibility of that type of evidence tampering, obviously.
It would, but at this point in time, we weren't aware of, at this point in time, state police had said they weren't responding. So there was no longer an area to preserve at that point.
So in your mind, well, let me phrase it a different way. What that means is after 8 a.m., that scene's just open.
It was.
You found both the blood that we saw pictures of and the cocktail glass that we were just introduced to this morning, correct?
Yes.
You searched the area that was adjacent to where you believed the body was. Is that right?
We searched, I would say, about a 6x6 or 7x7 area,
6x6 or 7x7?
roughly. 6 feet on each side.
Right. You were looking for obviously anything that was out of place, anything that didn't belong,
Yes.
like a man's size 12 shoe would have caught your attention.
It would.
A black baseball cap would have caught your attention.
It would.
Piece of plastic broken probably would have caught your attention.
Yes.
Certainly 45 pieces of plastic would have caught your attention.
Yes.
And between you and Officer Seraph, Sergeant Good, Officer Mullaney, Lieutenant Gallagher, none of that was found.
The only things we found were the things that were documented.
You did find the blood, however, is that right?
Yes.
Who literally physically leaned down and scooped that blood up?
Me.
And that was done in a plastic solo cup.
In the
that we've heard a little bit
house.
about.
Yes. Yes.
You're aware that those solo cups are unsealed.
I believe Lieutenant Gallagher got them out of a sealed package.
When I say unsealed, I mean they don't have a lid on them. They're not airtight containers.
Correct.
So once you scoop up the snow and the dirt and the debris and the grass and everything else, along with the blood, they're just open to the air.
Yeah, there was snow and blood. There was no dirt and debris in the class that I can recall.
You're sure about that? There's no dirt and snow?
I didn't observe any, no.
You didn't observe any dirt and snow? You don't think there's dirt and snow?
I didn't observe any dirt in the glass. The cup.
Okay. Certainly wasn't the sterile cup.
No.
Certainly wasn't the crime scene cup.
No.
Dude, the cups.
You're aware that the
insanity.
Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab
Insanity.
warns against collecting any biological material in anything made of plastic, correct?
Like, that's really just showing the
aware of that?
incompetence of this police department
After the
more than
well,
anything.
when you scooped up
Like,
the blood,
and there's
did
been
you
a
videotape
lot.
that process, so we know
But
exactly
that-
which blood stain was scooped up from
And
where.
then the evidence bag was a fucking
I don't
grocery
recall
poke.
if it was videotaped, but we did not document which scoop went in which cup.
Okay. So if there was multiple contributors of the blood, we'd sort of have no idea which blood drop belonged to whom, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Once
That's
these
insane,
unsealed
dude.
cups were in your possession,
Like,
what
I'm
did you
so
do with
fucking
them?
done with this.
The cups were placed into the Toyota Tundra that I was driving that day and ultimately returned back to the police station.
Okay, and you talked a little bit about the process once you returned back to the station. They were put in a brown evidence bag, correct?
Yes.
And ultimately, when you log these items into the, tell me the name of it again, it's temporary evidence?
Temporary,
Dude,
excuse me, the
it's
blood was put in temporary evidence
insane.
refrigerator.
Okay, inside the
Anyone
evidence
that's
bag.
taking up for that,
Cups are still inside the evidence bag.
what
It's logged.
is happening? You went too far. The shark has
I
been
don't recall
jumped.
that. I'm not sure if I took them out or not. I don't recall.
I will
Indicated
call
that
you
there's an
Fonzie.
item number or property number that's assigned to them.
Yes.
There's generated
It's not a good thing.
seal or a label to go on the evidence that's being
Not in that
stored, correct?
reference.
It should, yes.
And the bag is sealed. The evidence bag is sealed like this red tape that we see on this.
You know it.
thing,
Viv
correct?
got it.
When
She heard it.
possible, there are
That's what my
certain items
grandpa
that
used to
can't be
call it.
bagged, and then sometimes you create a tag
Get a
and
poke.
attach it to a tag.
Right, but if it's a brown paper bag that's an evidence bag, you certainly just fold over the edge of it and just put a red evidence seal on it to make sure that that's secure and not tampered with, correct?
That would be one way to do it, yes. I don't recall if I left them in the bag or took them out of the bag. I don't recall.
If you left them in the bag, you likely would have, if you're booking them into evidence, you likely would have used some red crime scene,
Yeah.
not crime scene, evidence tape.
If I left them in the bag, I would have put the property label right on the bag.
So everybody could see it.
Yes.
Okay, there's an evidence bag with important evidence in it. Don't mess with it. It's secure, correct?
Yes.
So we have tab 23.
This would piss you off. You're just like,
You recognize the
I ain't ever
what's
called the
depicted in
cops
this
here.
exhibit?
Everyone just
I
moves.
believe it's Miss Reed's vehicle.
For the record, you're looking at what's been previously marked as Exhibit 37. You see a little
Yeah,
black
yeah.
bag down there by the right rear quarter panel?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to tab.
That's
24.
100% my point there. We were
see
just
that white
talking
rag?
about the poke, the
Yes.
evidence bag.
Sorry?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Did you see a bag sitting next to it?
I do.
Doesn't look like an evidence bag, does it?
No, it looks like a Stop and Shop bag.
Stop and
But
Shop.
actually, it looks like an evidence bag. It just doesn't say Canton Police on it. It says Stop and Shop, but it does look like an evidence bag. It's the same thing.
That's a grocery bag.
It is. And that's exactly what our evidence bags look like. So that's what I thought it was at first.
Right, except it doesn't say anything about evidence on it. It says Stop and Shop, correct?
Correct.
What do you think's in that evidence bag? I'm sorry, Stop and Shop bag.
I'm not sure.
You're where when these pictures were taken?
I could tell that it's the Canton Police Sally Port. So it's some point after the state police had seized the vehicle.
And at some point after you had brought the solo cups back to the station.
Correct.
As a matter of fact, these were taken on February 1st when the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab finally took possession of these items of evidence, correct?
I was not in the police station for those 2 days.
Let's look at the next tab. Tab
All
25.
right. We're about to call it, folks.
You recognize that?
It appears to be solo
This
cups
has been the most
with
interesting
substance inside.
Are
witness
those just any
update
solo
so far.
cups or those
There's been some
solo
good
cups
ones.
that you took back to the station?
Maybe I should say what the fuck ones. I don't know. They haven't
I
necessarily
couldn't
been
say
good.
definitively, but it certainly looks like it.
It appears that they have.
So everyone hanging out here
liquid
tonight, you
material,
guys have been freaking
loaded lock.
amazing.
Yeah.
I'm about to send you over to another show that starts in about 2 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you all so much for hanging out. Really appreciate it. Next time you'll see me and Dan, Ricky Cougar back there in the chat will be Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, yeah, come through on Murder Church, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We're doing a trial right now. The guy's name is Phil Spector. It's a Hollywood trial. He was a music mogul, worked with the Beatles, did the entire Let It Be album. All right, murdered a B-movie star, and the prosecutor in that trial is Alan fucking Jackson. So come the fuck through on Murder Church, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We love you. Yeah, Feral Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time here. We have a good time then as well. All new people hanging and banging here tonight in the chat. Love to see it. Come back through. Come back through. You're about to go over to, I believe it's being streamed with the Fence Diaries and Jay. Thank you all so much. Love you guys. I'll see y'all in the chats. I'll see you here live. Let's go.
Pittsburgh